everyone, welcome to the Neelima Davuluri Show, a space where we explore powerful stories, courageous journeys, and human experiences that shape who we become. Today's guest is someone whose story is not just inspiring, but it's truly extraordinary. It's an absolute honor to introduce my guest today, Rabia Siddique, a humanitarian lawyer, an author, a globally recognized keynote speaker, and someone who has shown incredible resilience in the face of challenges. From serving in the military to surviving a life-threatening hostage experience and finding the courage to challenge injustice. Rabia's journey is a powerful reflection of resilience, purpose, and strength. Named as one of Australia's top 100 women of influence, someone who has received a standing ovation from an audience of 1,700 people at her TED Talk, Courage Under Fire, author of best-selling memoir, Equal Justice, Rabia is also a proud inductee into the WA Women's Hall of Fame. Rabia, what an incredible journey, and I'm so honored to welcome you on my show.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you for that very kind introduction.
Thank you, Rabia. So let me start with congratulating you on your the most recent achievement, WA Women's Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
How does that feel?
Wow. Well, it was a big shock when I was called and informed that I had been nominated and selected as an inductee. I thought that they had the wrong person initially. But yeah, it was a big shock. I've always been quite uncomfortable with individual recognition. So for me, the best way that I could get comfortable with that was realising that even though I was being inducted into this very impressive sounding Hall of Fame, it was actually a reflection on all the wonderful communities and individuals and agencies that I've worked with over my lifetime, and also a reflection of being very privileged to be trusted with people's stories and at times people's lives. So it was a beautiful honour. And for me, the highlight was being able to share it and to share the awards ceremony with all my family.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's lovely. And what a beautiful reflection. You not just keep it to yourself, but you also give it back to the community in many ways that you do. If I may ask, the 5-year-old Rabia who came to Australia and
all those decades
being inducted
ago
as a WA Women's Hall of Fame, how is that journey?
Gosh, well, it's been a journey of 5 decades with me turning 55 this year. And I guess like many people's lives, it's been a very weavy, windy life with unexpected turns, with curveballs, but also with so many gifts along the way. If you had told 5-year-old Rabia that she would have ended up where she is now and having received, the most amazing and humbling recognition, she wouldn't have believed you. She was a very, very shy little girl, very innocent, naive. And when I came here with my family in the mid-70s, very, very conscious of my differences, of what made me stand out and made my family stand out.
That's great.
Not necessarily in a good way back then. Life was very different back then.
Life was very different.
Yeah, in the mid-1970s when we immigrated from India, it was in the middle of something called the White Australia policy. So what that meant was, particularly those of us that came from non-European shores, we were expected to fit in, to check our differences at the door. Assimilation was the buzzword back in those days. So you really had to blend, become invisible. And if you did that for long enough, well enough, then you were eventually accepted into society. But there were still undertones of prejudice, racism, ignorance, and my dad bore the brunt of that. Even as a little girl, looking at the world through your parents' eyes as you do in those early years, I remember witnessing what my father in particular, as a dark-skinned Muslim Indian immigrant coming here, what he went through almost every day. And he handled it with grace, with dignity, with an outward sense of humour. But it was clear to me, even being as young as I was, that those harsh words, that tough treatment that he went through, just trying to give his family the best opportunities in life, they would leave lifelong scars. And I remember through witnessing his suffering, that gave me a very early awareness of the importance of, I guess, what we now call social cohesion, equity, fairness, and just simple human kindness.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you said you've been here for 5 decades, but even now...
On and off.
Yeah. Even now when you talk about this, I see you get teary-eyed. Have you made terms with what has happened in the past? And
Absolutely.
Have you gotten over it now?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I see everything that I witnessed and everything that I personally experienced as formative, as a gift, all with lessons that made me who I am, for better or for worse. I guess what I get emotional about is I think back to what we experienced 50 years ago, and I feel like as a country and as a society and as a planet, we've regressed so much. All the progress that we've made, that so many people that you stand on the shoulders of, that have fought so hard for equality, for cohesion, for inclusion, for true multiculturalism, we've gone backwards so much with poor leadership, you know, with the politics of fear and division and hate that have gained so much momentum and loud noise. That's what makes me sad. And particularly as a mother, and the one most important thing you forgot in your introduction, Neelima, is probably my biggest achievement, which is that I parent on steroids. I'm a mum of triplets, boys, 17-year-old boys that are almost 18.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm really conscious my kids are about to become adults, and I think of the world that they're about to go forth into, and it scares me senseless.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I also feel the same, to be honest. I resonate so much with your thoughts because I've lived here for almost 20 plus years now. My kids are born here. And it surprises me, overwhelms me that even today things have not gone much further. They may have gone further and they have now regressed back to how they were 20 years ago, which is a shame. And that's why we need more people like you to step up, speak up, and then encourage communities like us to move forward in unity, in cohesion, and being together.
Yeah, that's why we all need to do what we can. And it starts in our own homes and in our own communities, right? That's where the work starts, locally.
Yep.
That's how we create the ripples.
Yep. Yeah, that brings me to a good segue into my next section. As they say, we have only one life, and what we choose to do is the most important decision in our lives. So I'll start from the beginning. What made you choose to pursue a career in law and humanitarian work like social justice, etc.?
I think that the seeds of that were sown at a young age. And the first formative experience is one that I've related to you, witnessing what my parents, in particular my father, experienced coming to this country. I think also a few years later, I became the victim of child sexual abuse. And, you know, this is a common as well as a very confronting story, but something that I made a decision a long time ago that I would share publicly, particularly since when I started sharing my story, we weren't talking a lot about topics like sexual abuse, mental illness. And so many of us, when we were younger, in the days where we didn't speak about these things, felt that we were suffering alone and nothing seemed to change. And it's through the power of storytelling and the sharing of these stories and finally bringing things that were in the darkness out into the light that we have been able to change the narrative and the discussion and the culture around these things. So for me, finding myself the victim of child sexual abuse at the age of 9 and 10 at the hands of someone very close to our family who I knew and I trusted, and then eventually when I found my voice and spoke up, a decision was made by my parents, which was a very common decision back then, which was to sweep the abuse under the carpet and never speak of it. And I was told never to speak of what had happened to me because the fear was that this would bring so much shame and stigma on me, on our family, a family that hadn't quite yet been accepted as new Australians. Mm-hmm. So I don't blame my parents for that decision, but what I understand with the passage of time reflecting back is that decision had a lifelong impact on me. It left me feeling incredibly powerless and voiceless, and it left me with a secret that I bore for many, many years that started consuming me, eating away at me, and for a long time was defining and destroying me. And it was only when many years later I found myself in an incredibly supportive, inclusive environment, which was my secondary school, that I was finally, through other people believing in me and embracing me, I was able to see, I guess, that I was worthy of better treatment than I had received as a child. And that's when I was able to give myself permission to stop being defined by the worst thing that had happened to me. And I was able to get out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat of my life and make what would become a life-altering decision, which was that I refused to be the victim of that abuse and that injustice for the rest of my life. And somehow I realised that I needed to turn that into a positive driver for change. And eventually that grew into my decision to pursue a career in the law. And that was very much intentional and strategic because I knew that what I wanted to do with the law was to do my part in helping others, other individuals, other communities, people that lived in parts of the world where justice and equality were unachievable, helping them to achieve better lives and better outcomes in ways that perhaps had evaded me for so long.
Yep. It's really very brave of you to take control back of your life and come back to that steering wheel.
Yeah, I don't
from
see
the
it.
passenger's seat and moving back to the driving position.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny you call it brave, and I've been called brave so many times. I struggle with that. I look back and I think, well, what choice did I have?
Yeah.
There was only two choices, which was continue to be the victim and be consumed by the worst thing that happened to me that I had no control over. And if I continued down that trajectory, I'm convinced I wouldn't be here speaking to you now.
Absolutely.
Or to realise that the only one that was going to save me and turn my life around was me, essentially. And that, it's sad in a way when I look back to my younger self that I had to realise so early in life that the only one that could help me, the only one I could truly rely upon and trust at that point in time was me.
Yeah.
So my childhood was cut short in a number of ways, but it was also the making of me in a number of ways.
Yep. I kind of remember this beautiful line from Charlie Chaplin. He says, I love walking in the rain because then I don't need to show my tears.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was one of my questions. Like, everyone call you brave and everyone call you courageous, but deep down I know you're also a human being and vulnerable.
Yeah.
You must have had unlimited number of days when you wanted to give up,
Definitely.
broken down
Definitely.
with tears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So many days and so many times where I felt broken, where I was on my knees, where I didn't know whether I could continue or even wanted to carry on. And in all of those moments of despair and distress, I have been so blessed to have good people around me, even if it was just one person, to be able to hold space for me, hold me, lift me up, give me purpose, remind me of the gifts in my life. So when I've needed it the most, there's always been someone, my chosen family, or a partner, or a dear friend, or my children who I live for, that has reminded me that, as you said not so long ago, that we only have one life, and our choice and our duty is to make the most of it. This gift that we've been given, which is life here on earth.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate, but absolutely there have been so many times where I've been broken, distressed, desperate, hopeless. I think the other thing that I've been blessed with is very early and consistent clarity around my values and the commitment I made long ago to do my best to live in alignment with my values, even if that meant living in discomfort from time to time. So that's been a great source of strength as well.
Yeah, it's very touching, and I kind of feel the goosebumps when I'm hearing you talk about those moments. But if someone today is going through a similar phase of life, maybe a young child with a broken family or being abused.
Yeah, and that makes me sad. That makes me emotional just thinking of the millions of innocent people, not, in our community down the road from where we sit now, in our country and around the world, that are having to suffer things that are completely out of their control. Injustice, abuse, violence, war, conflict. And I don't know whether any words that I share could be enough. But if I was to share anything, if I was to be able to sit down with each of those people, children, women, girls, mothers, fathers, one by one, I would remind them that we all have an incredible amount of strength and resilience and courage untapped until it's called upon and we need it. What I have learnt through my life and through my journey is the basic primal human instinct to survive and to improve the worst of our circumstances that we find ourselves in is awe-inspiring. And we have that capacity, even if we all aren't blessed with the support around us, with the circumstances, being born into circumstances where we have opportunity or protection. But what we all have within us, what we are capable of within us, is something that we can tap into. I think also the knowledge that when we find ourselves in the eye of the storm, to remind ourselves that this too shall pass. Yep. Nothing is forever.
Yep.
And sometimes what we need to do when it is the most challenging and almost the most impossible to do so is to look hard to find the beauty around us. And even in the middle of war zones and conflict, we can find beauty, whether it's the simple kindness of a stranger, whether it's a little flower that rises up from the ashes, or whether it's the simple smile of a child that's looking back at you. There is beauty in life, everywhere if we can choose to look at it and use that as a source of hope.
Yep. That's beautifully said about hope and life and gratitude. I do have a lot of gratitude, and when I hear your story, I do feel very privileged to know someone like you who has risen from strength to strength.
Thank you.
Coming from where you were like 5 years ago, like when you were 5 years ago, and then till today. Every day you showed up with resilience, with courage, with more courage and less fear. That's how I'd like to say. And it's been a complete honor for me to know someone like you.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. Well, for me, it's wonderful to meet people like you as well. And I think what binds us all is our human spirit and our genuine desire to do what we can in whatever way we can to make the world a better place, to give space for other people's stories, to do what we can to inspire and impact our community and the people around us in a positive way. So I'm inspired and strengthened by that every day.
It's great. It's great to hear. All right, I'm extending a little bit on your career from there. You always worked in high-stake environments in most of your workplaces. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people's lives, not every move was strategic or intentional. Opportunities presented themselves, and on more than one occasion, I trusted my gut and my instinct, my intuition and my values to drive me forward and make the right decisions. But I guess, yes, on reflection, if I look at most of my career, where I've worked, with whom I've worked, it's been fairly high pressure, reasonably extreme contexts. I guess I've always seen it as a privilege and as something, this is going to sound a bit glib, but my destiny, something that I was always called upon. I felt that I was able to bring something to the table, that I, maybe through my suffering as a child and being exposed to what I was, someone like me could understand and survive and exist amongst other people's suffering, and to be able to see and witness the pain, but to be able to cope in a way where I could remain in that and function within that in order to help people in their hours of need. So how have I done that? I guess by developing coping mechanisms along the way, by being fairly resolute and fairly resolved and certain early on that this was my mission and my calling, and by feeling incredibly privileged and honoured to do the work that I've done, whether it was helping people in the middle of theatres of conflict seek justice for the human rights abuses that they were suffering for years and years and years at the hands of terrorists, or whether it was representing families of victims that had been murdered in terrorist attacks. Every step along the way in my career, I have been placed in incredibly responsible and privileged positions where I have been entrusted with people's stories, with the worst that's happened to them, with their suffering, with their injustice, and they've turned to me, hoping and relying upon me and people around me, my colleagues, and the incredible agencies and organisations I've worked with to help them, to give them justice, to help give their loss meaning. And to help them find resolution and to help them on their healing journeys. So it's always keeping that in mind that has helped to buoy and support me, even in the most difficult circumstances that I have professionally found myself in, where I wanted to look away and run away and just fall in a heap. When I saw the suffering around me and what people have endured, that has helped me to suck it up and to keep going, because I've always regarded the opportunities that I've had as being incredible privileges that I needed to rise to in order to do good. And in doing good and helping others, I have found my own meaning and salvation at times. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. I was just thinking on that note. You mentioned there were several times people entrusted you for justice and for helping them out.
Yeah, many times.
Was there ever a situation when you felt that you were not able to provide justice to them? Your hands were tied, even though you were in a position of privilege.
Yeah, many times. But I'm a little bit like a dog with a bone. If I can't achieve, and if I'm not part of a team where if I'm part of a team where we realise that we can't achieve the ultimate justice or result for someone, for a family or for community, I'm not one that's been able to walk away without achieving some good for them. And I guess a recent example of that is when I was approached to represent the families of the victims of the Christchurch mosque attacks in the Royal Commission that was called by the then Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, into the response to those attacks. I knew that I couldn't bring back their loved ones. I knew that I wouldn't be able to give them justice for what they'd lost and what they'd all endured and who they had lost from their lives forever. But what I was able to do was to share their stories and make representations to them at the Royal Commission that could hopefully bring about some systemic change in the way the first responders responded to the mosque attacks, in the way the community could understand Muslims and their particular cultural differences in Christchurch in New Zealand, in the way that the government could make different policies that were more informed by the communities that they impacted. So, there's been many times where I've been frustrated and hamstrung and obstructed by politics, by bureaucracy, by the reality on the ground. But I've very rarely found myself in a situation where I felt that I could or was allowed to walk away or able to walk away with at least doing some small good.
Yeah. In hindsight, if you have to look back, do you think there's anything you could have done differently, or you're happy with the approach? Now, this is a rhetorical question.
Career-wise, I think I've been incredibly privileged and blessed. There's very little in my career that I would have changed because everything was a learning experience, a growth experience, an evolution, a maturity that led me and keeps leading me to opportunities and incredible responsibilities to work with people and do work that is important and meaningful for me. Personally, heck yeah. So many things in my personal life that if I had the benefit of time travel, I would go back and do differently. mainly decisions that I've made that impacted my children.
Yeah.
And decisions that I made as I was going through my personal journey of coming to a place finally of self-compassion and self-love. And that journey's taken 5 decades.
Yeah.
I would have spared my children some of the impact of decisions I made that affected them, but not myself. Because I believe everything that's happened to me, the good and the bad, the ugly and the beautiful, have been gifts. Whether they've been in beautiful packaging or ugly packaging, they've made me who I am, for better or for worse. So none of that I would have changed.
I deep down, I knew that would be your answer, but that you wouldn't want to change anything. But I wanted my listeners to also know that every experience that gets thrown at your way, it teaches you something. It leaves you a bit stronger than you were. And I think every single experience, whether it is good or bad, is absolutely worth it.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now that you talk about your children, what do your children, 3 boys, triplets, what do they think about their mother, Rabia?
Well, they're 17, and anyone that's the parent of teenagers will know that, that they don't think that the honest answer is they don't think of their mum or their parents a lot, because their job is to put themselves in the centre of their own universe at the moment. That's what teenagers do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, I hope that they're proud of me. I hope that in the passage of time they will live their lives and reflect that maybe I've instilled in them some important values that they will go on to live their lives by, that along the way I've given them some positive role modelling, that they'll forgive and understand maybe some of the decisions that I made that weren't so great at the time. But what I do know, and I can say hand on heart, is that I've done my absolute best. And
100%.
In their last 17 years, every major decision that I've made in my life, professionally or personally, I've asked myself, how would my children, how would my boys see this? And am I doing them proud? So what do they think of me? Well, I don't rightly know at this point in time, because they're young men of few words. But what I hope is in time I've been a good influence and a good mum, and done what I can to help them in their journey to be what I know will be true, which will be that they will be kind, warm, honest, loving young humans that will do their part to live a life bigger and beyond themselves.
Yeah. I'm 100% sure they'll go far above and beyond you.
Well, they
because
already
your
have made
upbringing-
me very proud. I'm really proud of my kids.
Yeah. Are they into any social initiatives or anything like that at school? Or do you influence them entering into any of those sort of initiatives?
They've all been very committed to community service. They go to a school where those values are very important and instilled in them. But I guess coming from the family that they have and having those values that they've been raised with, they are very committed and passionate about community service. They're very aware about what's going on in the world. They're very aware of current affairs. They have their own views that they're forming. What they'll go on to do,
Would they be interested
they're still
to
forming those views.
Yep. Would they be interested to become lawyers?
I
like
don't
yourself?
think, no, none of them have shown an interest in law.
Okay.
And that is absolutely fine by
with
me.
you.
I've never been a parent that's pressured them to take a certain course. I just want them to realise their potential, and I want them to be happy, and I want them to feel that they belong, that they have a real strong sense of belonging in the world. Because if they feel a sense of belonging and they have well-being and they're living a life where they are happy and satisfied and enriched, I know that they will go on to do amazing things for others.
Absolutely. I am a mother of a teenage boy myself, And I
You
can
feel my pain.
100% relate to each and every word that you said.
Yeah.
They put themselves first.
Yeah.
They're like on the stage, the main character.
Oh, yeah. And we're all there as the support crew.
Supporting actors, yeah. But that's wonderful. I know there's two sides of you, so I'm trying to explore the other side of you, which is a parent, a mother of a proud mother of a triplet boys. So that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, and an overseer of beautiful chaos, which is my home, my family.
It's lovely. Cool. So next I'd like to talk about sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. We've touched upon this topic in one of the keynote speeches that I've attended, one of your keynote speeches. Mm-hmm. You talk about how each one of us carry a sphere of influence, and it is our responsibility as individuals to use it with intention to build trust. Mm. What does trust mean to you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Trust to me means safety. Mm. It means the ability to make people feel safe, that they can be themselves and their whole self, and to be able to feel that yourself as well. I don't think you can have trust without acceptance, a sense of belonging that I referred to before, and most importantly, a sense of safety. Mm-hmm.
So if there are leaders in today's world who are listening to this podcast, what is the advice that you would give to them to build such trust and allyship?
Trust is everything. Trust is the foundation of every healthy relationship, whether it be personal or professional. So it is a leader's role. It is everyone's role that has a sphere of influence, as you said, and we all have a sphere of influence, and it starts in our homes and in our communities, and it spreads to our workplaces and then beyond. And we have to remember that each and every one of us has a sphere of influence. There are people looking to us and looking up at us. So trust for me is where it all begins, and sometimes where it all ends if we erode and we break trust. So my message to leaders is that trust is always the starting point, and our responsibility as people with influence is to build trust, and where it's been eroded or broken, to rebuild trust, because it's only when we can make people feel safe to be themselves that we can foster anything that is worthwhile, whether it's a sense of belonging and cohesion, whether it's a high-performing team, whether it's a successful company, or whether it's a community living in harmony. Trust is the starting point.
Yep, that's excellent. I've attended this session where you talk a great deal about trust and how leaders can build trust. And there's lots of notes I've taken, and I've really been inspired by the way you mentioned about every single thing, about safety, about leaders. Leaders themselves should be trustworthy.
Oh, it starts with self.
Start with self and integrity.
You have to be the role model of that. And that's comes down to integrity.
Correct.
And what's integrity? Well, it's really simply saying and doing right even when others aren't looking and listening, especially when people aren't looking and listening.
Yeah, that's a great line. Doing what is right even when no one is saying or watching.
And even when it's uncomfortable to do so.
When it is uncomfortable to do so. Yeah.
That is, to me, what defines leadership.
And do you think in today's world we have lots of leaders like that?
Well, you know the answer to that. I think we have a greater understanding of what good leadership should look like. I think we have had some incredible examples of that in our lifetime, but unfortunately we are living in a point in time in history where the worst kind of leadership has got the loudest voice and impact and momentum at the moment. And it's frightening and it's heartbreaking and it's distressing and it's freaking soul destroying because it's costing thousands and thousands of lives every day. But I have this feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I've had this feeling a number of times in my life, that we are building and things are mounting to a point that will come soon. There will be a turning point. I have to believe that there will be a turning point because things can't keep going the way they are. They can't keep going from bad to worse to almost the unbelievable. Mm-hmm. There has to be a turning point. Yeah. And I think it will be a people-led turning point. And we're seeing examples of that now. Look at the election result in Hungary just the other day. Yep. Again, it's that we have to look for the signs of hope. We have to look for the strength. So I hope once again we will have this renaissance of good, decent, cohesive leadership. Mm-hmm. But I also think for that to happen at the macro level, the system of politics needs to change.
Absolutely.
At the community level, there are so many good leaders out there. There are so many incredible people in our communities all around the world that are doing exceptional things. Yep. And that's where we need to focus and lift those people up. And in doing that, eventually do what we can with people power to ensure that the right voices are being listened to and the right people are eventually at the decision-making tables. Yep. At the broadest level. And that means having more diversity at the table in all of its forms.
Yep. I strongly believe that things fall apart before they fall in place.
Yeah.
So I think, like you said, before the turning point, this is the absolute that they can fall apart. And I have a hope that things will get better.
Please, universe, all the gods in the world that there are, whoever people look to beyond themselves, please may that be soon, because humanity has suffered long enough. Yep. And particularly in some parts of the world where life is seen as cheaper and expendable, mm-hmm. where communities, countries, nations are demonised, it needs to stop. It needs to change.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
All right, I'll probably move to my rapid fire section to cheer you up a little bit.
Under pressure. Supposedly where I thrive. Let's see if that's the case.
Yeah, but before that, I'd like to close this section with one last question. There are so many titles for Rabia when I was introducing you. But beyond these titles, the designations and the things you have achieved, who is the real Rabia that we don't know yet?
Gosh, I think I've bared a lot of who I am and the many sides to me publicly, for better or for worse. I'm not sure if there's much more to reveal that I haven't shared already. I guess I would just want to reinforce that like every human being, I've lived a life trying to do my best and I haven't always got it right, but something that I was told a few years ago, which is something that has stayed with me and will continue to stay with me for the rest of my days, is we do our best with what we know at the time.
Correct. Yeah.
And that has helped me get to a place that's taken me 5 decades to get to, which is the place of self-compassion and self-forgiveness and self-acceptance. So I guess when it's all boiled down to it, who am I? I'm someone that's done the best that I have been able to do with what I've known at the time and continue to be that person.
Excellent. I would like to clap on this note. And I'm pretty sure there are several phases of your life yet to come, unexplored.
Oh, it's not over yet. There's still lots more.
There's lots
more to be done and lots more life to live.
I'm sure you'll surprise us with more versions of yourself.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Cool. So I'll probably move into my rapid fire section.
Yeah,
so
bring it on.
I have 5 questions for you,
Okay.
and then you can't take more than 30 seconds to answer each one of these questions.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. One word to describe your journey so far.
Blessed.
Excellent answer. There are many things you could have chosen, but you've chosen blessed, so that shows your state of mind, which is really awesome. The next one, a value you live by.
Courage.
Courage. Yep. Best piece of advice you've ever received.
To your own self be true.
And who has given that advice to you?
Well, I read it first.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first people to give me that advice were my parents and then mentors along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
then
awesome.
myself.
Yourself, yep. Nice. A book that has changed your life.
Oh, gosh, so many. When I was, it's only one word answer, isn't it? Oh, I'm going to break your rules because I'm a rule breaker as well as a rule keeper. When I'm younger, it was The Road Less Travelled.
Okay.
And in the last few years, The Kite Runner.
The Kite Runner. I'm yet to read it. I haven't read it yet.
Beautiful.
Great. Good. You're up to the last question now. What is the one thing you cannot live without?
Love.
Love. Wow.
That's
what a
easy.
Great answer. Yeah. That's excellent. Great. So that's the end of my rapid fire section. And you have done excellent. You have done excellent. I wish I had prepared more rapid fire questions
that
for
was
you.
fun. I've never done that before.
Haven't you? Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I had my gift hamper to give it to you today, but I'll probably get one for you soon.
This has been a gift. This has been beautiful. Thank you.
No worries. So what are your next plans from here? Where is Rabia headed to?
Well, in the immediate future, it's seeing my boys through this critical final year of school. So my job is to keep them fed, watered, and to bite my tongue when they're grumpy as they're going through year 12. But professionally, my work focuses more and more in trust. So I am doing a lot more work with leaders and organisations to help them build trust in what is a rapidly changing, challenging world. And the beautiful thing is that after 11 years of doing a lot of that work on my own, I'm now collaborating with some incredible people, which is so much fun. Working with my partner and working with some incredible colleagues and friends who have very different complementary skills to me, but we're all aligned in our commitment to help people with influence to build trust in themselves and in those around them. So, and that is taking many forms, but it's a joy.
Yep. Well, we wish you good luck.
Thank you. And I wish you good luck with this fantastic podcast.
Thank you. I would like to close with some of my reflections from our conversation today.
Sure.
Firstly, like I said before, I'm really grateful that you have given your time to me. I know how busy you are, and your calendar is booked out months in advance. So I'm very honored and very grateful to you for giving this
You're
time
welcome.
and opportunity to
You're
sit
so
down
welcome.
and discuss with you. This conversation has been very powerful, and you have been very open, honest, and vulnerable, and put yourself out there and have shared so much with our viewers and listeners with a good intention that it is going to help some child or someone who is going through a similar situation.
I hope so.
On a closing note, some of my reflections are we all ponder about what makes successful people who they are. And I think I've written down while you were talking, successful people are not someone who has everything figured out for themselves. Successful people are high value, high integrity, have a lot of courage, resilience, and willing to go that extra mile. Where other people would have given up, successful people like Rabia, they show up every single day with more courage, less fear, and with the willingness to go that extra mile, not because things are any better, but because they have the perseverance and the strength to keep going.
Wow.
Thank you, Rabia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so that is the end of a wonderful episode with Rabia. And for everyone else who's listening, if you enjoyed this podcast, please do subscribe to my channel, like and share with your friends. And if you have any comments on this episode, or if you'd like to reach out to us, please leave your comments in the YouTube channel. Thank you. Signing off.